International Women's Day. I'm Khalid Hassan, Director of International Labour Organization in the Philippines. Women are among the hardest hit by the COVID-19 and the climate change. Women further suffer from exclusion and inequality, harassment and violence at work, job losses to the burdens of care responsibilities. To protect our planet, as well as jobs and livelihood, a just transition is crucial. We support the Philippines to advance decent work and climate action through the human-centered recovery and just transition. We work with the government, workers, employers, and development partners. Recently, to help about 4.4 million workers affected by the typhoon audit, mostly women due to climate change. A just transition is good for the environment, the economy, and the people. It can close the gender gap as more women work in renewable energy and green jobs. A just transition with skills development, enterprise innovation, fair income, gender equality, labor standards, social dialogue, labor market measures, occupational safety and health, social protection, especially for the most vulnerable. The ILO and the UN's Global Job Accelerator aims to create at least 400 million jobs, including care and green sector, and to extend social protection to 4 billion people. We call for a human-centered green recovery through investments in decent work, social protection, and a just transition, especially for women and girls. Investment that could lift millions out of poverty, reduce vulnerability, and prevent deepening inequalities. Let us build a better future of work with the people at the center, a future that leaves no one behind.
Hi everyone, I'm Audrey Pe, and I'm the founder and executive director of Youth for Women in Technology Incorporated, or WeTech for short. WeTech started as a blog that shared stories of women in tech and how they navigated a field dominated by men. After attending a conference in 2017, I realized that more needed to be done in order to close the gender gap in tech. From there, WeTech became a community organization and hosted various events, including WitCon, the first Women in Tech conference for students and by students in the Philippines.
With its mission to educate, inspire, and empower the youth to break gender stereotypes and use technology for the betterment of society, WeTech has grown into a non-profit, SEC-registered organization.
Our vision is to achieve gender equality in the technology industry by increasing networking opportunities for every young woman interested.
From a simple blog, WeTech has grown into an extremely impactful community. But wait, what does WeTech actually do now?
WeTech still continues its blog that is regularly updated with different STEM articles, research outputs, and interviews from women in the field of STEM. We also have our biggest annual event called WitCon, or the Women in Technology Conference. This event exposes students and educators to a wide array of accomplishments and research of Philippine women within the field of technology.
But that's not all we do. We also have other major projects such as We Teach, an outreach program that equips Filipinos with the tools necessary for them to forward their journeys in tech. We Talks, a series of talks that center around women using tech to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Roadshow, a series of campus visits consisting of career talks and forums on the state of tech in the country. An online tech camp, a camp for young Filipino students to participate in various STEM workshops and forums, and many, many more.
Impacting hundreds of lives, we have been recognized for our efforts to advance gender equality in the field of technology and STEM as a whole. From Manila to the rest of the world, WeTech began expanding its chapters in 2019. Now, we have over 20 chapters in Asia, North America, Africa, Oceania, and Europe, working together to spearhead our mission across the globe.
Every year, WeTech opens its doors to those who want to take part in achieving WeTech's goals. To know more about WeTech and what we do, visit our website, wi-tech.org, or visit us on our social media channels. Stay tuned for our future initiatives and be part of our growing global community. Join us and let's break barriers together.
Bilang babae, kailangang lumaban, tuloy lang ang buhay kahit anong problema, magkakaroon ka ng magandang trabaho, basta huwag ka lang mag-quit.
Importante po para mapaunlad po yung mga sarili natin, lalo na sa mga kababaihan na huwag matakot, ilabas po yung talent na meron sila.
I think that learning is a lifelong thing that every woman should really consider.
The Women in STEM program is a program that seeks to attract more women into careers in technology and to help women in this technology industry to stay and advance in this workplace. We do this through, number one, through scholarships that we provide to women in courses in technology such as animation, game development, software programming, impact sourcing, and web development. For women who are working in the technology industry, we are providing soft skills training to help women stay in the workforce and at the same time advance in this industry.
So, nung nag-join ako, natutong mag-computer. Sa training kasi nila, meron dyang e-commerce, website design, logo design. Tinuruan kami kung paano magkaroon ng online job. Tapos yun, nakakuha ko ng client, gumawa ko ng website.
Wala namang dapat ikatakot, diba? So, if you're not going to try, hindi mo malalaman kung magwo-work. Lalo na kung talagang ang gusto mo, yung heart mo nandun sa ginagawa mo.
Kapag nag-train ka and kapag pinush mo yung sarili mo to do more than sa inaakala mo, marami ka palang kayang gawin and marami kang taong pwedeng matulungan.
First time ko po dito kasi parang wala talagang alam, wala akong background sa 3D. Yun lang alam ko mag-drawing. Tapos ng mga araw na lumilipas, parang siyempre pagbago ka mahirap. Pero nakakaya ko po.
Ayun, mas nag-widen yung perspective ko dun sa animation kasi mas marami palang nagagawa nga yung sa 3D. And ngayon, pag nanonood ako ng mga lives ni cartoons, natutuwa ako sa kanyang panoorin kasi alam ko na siya ngayon kung paano nila ginagawa.
I was never a gamer like my classmates, pero I love playing word games. Naisip ko, it would be nice siguro to understand how word games are done and how I could come up with simple games for children to learn how to read.
Women are more nurturing. They are the heart of the organization. They are more inclined to their emotions, which helps also in knowing which decisions to take.
We look at this as a great opportunity for women now to understand the opportunities that we have in the technology sector. There's still a lot of forces of work that has to be done, but I believe that DICT and ILO has actually seen the great potential of this program.
TESDA is encouraging other women to grab this opportunity by exposing them to the field and motivating them that this is now the demand in the industry. I am very grateful to ILO for choosing TESDA as one of their partners in this program.
Excellence and determination to excel in a certain area does not depend sa gender naman ng tao. So women can do anything beyond what we can imagine naman talaga.
The UP National Institute for Science and Mathematics Education Development, or UP NISMED, is a research and extension unit of the University of the Philippines. Guided by its mandate to improve science and mathematics education, NISMED performs three major functions: research, curriculum development, professional development, and extension services. Through the years, NISMED has been generating new knowledge regarding science and mathematics teaching in the country. Research outputs, such as teaching materials, are tried and tested to teachers and students inside the classroom. Relevant and innovative teaching materials are made available online and at NISMED publications for distribution. In addition, NISMED is highly involved in the framing of the National Science and Mathematics Basic Education curricula. Equipped with subject area specialists, NISMED offers professional development programs which cater to the needs of teachers and educators in the country and Asia-Pacific region.
As a teacher, I am subjected to try new trends that will fit to the clamor of the new normal education. One of these trends is video lesson. This course is what we really need in this time of pandemic, as it fits to the need of the new normal education. The dedication that UP NISMED has shown to us is really inspiring. With this, I am looking forward for more training courses, not just in our school's division, but also around the country. Keep inspiring and continue to work towards your institution's goal. Maraming salamat po.
These training programs deepen teachers' understanding of the subject areas they teach. NISMED promotes science teaching through inquiry and teaching mathematics through problem solving. Not only it conducts training programs, but also mentors science and mathematics teachers in the elementary and secondary levels. NISMED also promotes lesson study, a school-based teacher professional development model which originated in Japan and is now gaining popularity in the country. To reach out to various communities, NISMED uses different platforms online. It also ventured into television to popularize science among general viewers and used radio to reach out to more teachers and the public.
Ito po ang programang sadyang inahandog ng UP NISMED para sa yung meaning nga po ng acronym.
To further its extension services, NISMED regularly conducts stargazing activities to accommodate school requests. It regularly opens its laboratories, providing opportunities for students to learn science and mathematics concepts and practice their applications. To conduct more effective programs and activities, NISMED partners with both local and international organizations. Committed to excellence, NISMED programs have continuously been achieving awards and recognitions. Since its establishment in 1964, NISMED continues its journey of commitment and service to lead the nation in science and mathematics education.
We at NISMED commit to be at the forefront of capacity building, research and innovation for science and mathematics education.
In 2020 affected everyone. For many, life had come to a standstill. 2020 hit the entire world economy. Almost all industries suffered massive losses. Some downright collapsed. 2020 was a year in which perspectives shifted. But 2020 is history. People are regaining hope, and life is returning back to normal. The economy is recovering, and we have the chance to develop new perspectives for sustainable growth. It's time to find our way back to one another. We invite all of you to refocus on Austria. rediscover our companies as global leaders in innovation, ingenuity, and excellence. Rediscover Austria as a prime destination. Let's look to the future. Refocus on Austria. It's time to reconnect.
My name is Gaia Novarino and I'm working at the Institute of Science and Technology, Austria. Essentially, it's a research institute that is doing top-notch research.
My name is Georgios Katsaros and I'm working in the field of semiconductor physics. So what we do is really fundamental research. So the long-term dream is really the holy grail, this quantum computer, but what drives me every day is really to understand basic physics. Well, in 10 years, I hope that we will be mentioned as one of the top places, not just in Europe. And that's why we are all doing our best.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Women in STEAM Careers webinar series with the theme Celebrating Women in STEAM Careers webinar series with the theme Celebrating Women and Girls in Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts and Culture, and Mathematics. I am Helen Catalan of the University of the Philippines, National Institute for Science and Mathematics Education Development, or UP NISMED, and I will be your host for this afternoon's event. The Women in STEAM Careers webinar series is in observance of the UN International Day of Women and Girls in Science and is an initiative of the Austrian Embassy, Manila, in partnership with the International Labour Organization, the Department of Education, the National Institute for Science and Mathematics Education Development, and the Youth for Women in Technology Incorporated. This webinar is also being live streamed via the UP NISMED and Go Teacher Go Facebook pages. For our Zoom participants who are using mobile phones, you have an option to watch the webinar via the UP NISMED Facebook page at bit.ly/UP NISMED Facebook page for a better viewing experience. This webinar is the fourth and last of a series and has the guiding theme, Women in STEM Leadership, Leaders for a Post-COVID World. Before the introduction of the panelists, I'd like to inform the audience that we will be taking questions and fielding them to our panelists. You may want to note down these questions and write this into the chat window. Alternatively, you may use the raise hand button. Please wait for the moderator to recognize you and allow you to unmute yourself. May I also remind the audience to mute your microphone during the presentations. Thank you. This afternoon, we are so fortunate to be graced by leaders and experts in their respective fields. To introduce our panelists for this afternoon's webinar, may I call on the Director of the National Institute for Science and Mathematics Education Development, University of the Philippines, Dr. Sherilyn C. Monterola. Ma'am?
Thank you, Dr. Helen. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the last installment of our Women in STEAM Careers webinar series. It is with great pride and honor that I introduce our STEAM panelists this afternoon who are leaders in their respective STEAM fields. Our first speaker, Maria Cristina Galang Coronel, is currently the Senior Advisor and Board Member of Pointwest Technologies Corporation, a leading 100% Filipino-owned IT BPM services company that she co-founded in January 2003 to provide a platform for the Philippine IT BPM industry in showcasing our great world-class Filipino talent. She was part of the group that promoted offshore IT outsourcing and developed global service delivery models that enabled the work to be brought to the Philippines where talent is abundant. She has led both Philippines Software Industry Association, or PSIA, and Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines, HIMAP, to support the growth of the software services industry and healthcare information management services industry in the Philippines. She also has focused her efforts on capability building of the industry. She is currently the Vice Chair of the Board of Directors of the Center for Integrated STEM Education, or SYSTEM, and the Chair of HIMAP, Healthcare Information Management Association of the Philippines. She has a Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering with honors from the University of Santo Tomas and was one of the USD Engineering Centennial Awardees for Industry Leadership and elevated to the USD Engineering Hall of Fame for Industry Leadership in 2018. Once again, let us welcome Ms. Galang Coronel. Our second speaker, Dr. Cynthia P. Saloma, is presently a professor of molecular biology and biotechnology and principal investigator at the Laboratory of Molecular and Cell Biology, LMCB, in the National Institute of Molecular Biology and Biotechnology in UP Diliman. She currently serves as Executive Director of the Philippine Genome Center, University of the Philippines System. Dr. Palma Saloma received her PhD in physiology in 1998 and her MS in Medical Science in 1995 from Osaka University, Japan. She holds 2 bachelor's degrees, one in molecular biology from Nagoya University and the other in fisheries from UP Visayas, where she finished her course in 3.5 years, graduating with magna cum laude honors in October 1987. She was a recipient of the Monbusher Scholarship as an undergraduate and MS student and became a research fellow of the Japan Society for the Promotion of Science, JSPS, while pursuing her PhD degree. She joined NIMBB in 1998 and started the Neurobiology Research Group, which has now evolved into the Laboratory of Molecular and Cell Biology, or LMCB. She is the recipient of the National Academy of Science and Technology, NASD Philippine Outstanding Young Scientist Award in the field of biophysics in 2004 for her contributions to the field, for leading the UP Philippine Genome Center in expanding the realms of genomics to the different regions of the country, and for encouraging and mentoring young researchers in genomics. The 2020 Dioscoro Umali Award for Outstanding Science Administrator was awarded to Dr. Saloma last November 2020. For her contributions to teaching, she was likewise awarded the UP Diliman Centennial Gawad Chancellor para sa Natatanging Guro Award in 2008. Most recently, she is the recipient of the 2021 Nagoya University Award for International Exchange for her contributions as the president of the Nagoya University Alumni Association Philippine branch. Dr. Palmes Saloma served as past president of the Philippine Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, the Philippine Society for Cell Biology, as well as the Outstanding Young Scientists Incorporated Philippine Academy of Young Scientists. She started the PGC DNA Sequencing Core Laboratory in 2012 and was appointed as PGC Executive Director in 2017. She is a member of the AITF Task Force on COVID-19 Variants. Their team at the UPPGC has been instrumental in the detection of SARS-CoV-2 variants in the country and works closely with the DOH Epidemiology Bureau and relevant government agencies to help track coronavirus mutations in the Philippines. Our dear participants, let us welcome our second speaker, Dr. Cynthia Palmes Saloma. Our third speaker, Dr. Nicole Amberg, studied molecular biology as well as zoology at the University of Vienna. She then joined the laboratory of Professor Maria Sibilia at the Medical University of Vienna to perform her PhD, focusing on the interaction of immune cells with tumor cells and with stem cells of the skin. Dr. Amberg is currently working as a FWF Herta Fimberg postdoctoral fellow in the laboratory of Professor Simon Heipenmeier at the Institute of Science and Technology, Austria. Her work focuses on brain stem cells and how a brain of correct size and cell composition is built during embryonic development. Dr. Nicole Amberg is not only a passionate researcher, but also a strong advocate for women in science and diversity in general. She has thus founded the STEM Fatale initiative to create a platform connecting STEM women in Austria and beyond, enable exchange amongst peers, as well as foster career promotion and personal development opportunities. The STEM Fatale initiative has received the Wissenschaftzukunft Research Award from the state of Lower Austria in the category Call for Concept in 2020. Dr. Amberg's activities have gained further notice by national media and international events. She regularly serves as a woman scientist role model in measures funded by the Austrian Federal Ministry for Women, Youth, and Families, in workshops hosted by the Vienna Business Agency, and in Zuma Scientist sessions organized by ISTA. Friends and colleagues, let us welcome our third speaker, Dr. Nicole Amberg. To officially start our inspiring panel about women STEAM leaders this afternoon, I turn the floor over to our first speaker, Ma'am Beng Coronel. Good afternoon, Ma'am Beng.
Yeah, good
I turn it
afternoon,
over to you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me first share my screen. Allow me first to give you a brief view of my career after completing my STEM education. So I actually, my journey started right after graduation from BS Chemical Engineering at the University of Santo Tomas in 1974 and passed my licensure exams immediately after. So I thought that it would be a breeze getting the job, okay? But not quite. You will have to understand that that was close to 5 decades ago when the classified ads of daily newspapers would post job vacancies with the qualifications, including the gender. And so it was a realization that there was gender disparity and inequity and employer preferences in my chosen profession. That was when I turned my attention to information technology, which was actually greenfield back then and welcomed anyone interested in pursuing a career in IT. So this started a series of transformations from chemical engineering, which I studied in college, to information technology. From being a programmer trainee and rose through the ranks in all levels and roles till I became a president and CEO, a chief executive officer. I also transformed from being an employee to becoming an entrepreneur when I co-founded in 2004 a 100% Filipino-owned IT BPM company that aspires to create a platform that will showcase the great Filipino talent in information technology and business process management. I have been asked several times if I had any regrets taking up chemical engineering. My answer has always been an emphatic no. My education has equipped me with skills that are needed in any career that you pursue and basic skills needed to survive in a life full of challenges as we are experiencing right now. So allow me to share the skills honed by pursuing a STEM education. Okay, the first, my top choice is critical thinking. It has allowed me to examine the information I always have, make a rational analysis, and pursue and get to a conclusion or judgment. This has actually helped me to grow in my career as well as get by with life struggles. Okay. The next one is problem solving. Okay. My chemical engineering education has actually provided me with enough coursework that were planned to challenge me to come up with solutions. And it is normal to become innovative in coming up with the solutions. The third is collaboration. Earlier on, we have been exposed to group work in college, whether this be in the laboratories or in projects. And we have seen that the value of teamwork earlier on, else we missed our deadlines, or in some cases, graduation. The next is project management. Our projects in college entail several steps, several activities that would force you to plan and manage. This has been very useful once you assume leadership posts in your career. Adaptability. I've gone through several transformations, and being able to adapt has been one of the most important skills needed to succeed in one's profession. And with your adaptability, you develop high tolerance from risks to start out something new. And finally, learning skills. Not everything can be spoon-fed, and this is something we picked up in college. You need to do your own research, train using various online virtual classes, read, travel, and observe. We are lifelong learners. And this is the only way to survive in our dynamic world, the new normal or the not so normal. And all these skills, I thank my STEM education. It certainly has prepared me to a more meaningful life. Now, let us get to what we call as the new normal, or to some, it's the not so normal. Okay. So as early as 2011, we were exposed to what they call the nexus of forces, or SMAC. That's SMAC. It's not Schumart Advantage Card, as you may know it, but it's actually an acronym for social, mobile, analytics, and cloud, or the third platform, as we call it in IT. Of course, you would ask, what was the first two platforms? What were the first two platforms? The first being the mainframes and the terminals, and the second platform being the client-server models. So now we go to the third platform, which is the SMAC, back then in the early 2011. Okay. This actually started the digital journey of several enterprises, but this has slowed down since it catered to specific industries, such as those that are focused or heavy in interaction with end users and are consumer-driven. Then came the buzzword digital transformation, as all enterprises saw the benefits of being digital. While everyone was busy getting approval from their leadership teams for the digital transformation, COVID came, and the pandemic made the digital transformation happen. So companies never had a chance, but had to go digital in order to survive. So even our company, Pointwest Technologies, I had to decide to implement a work from home model for all of our resources on day one of the lockdown. So once they said it's lockdown, you can't go to the office. And so we had to really execute our plan for BCP. And that plan was really to move everything to the homes of each and every one of our resource or employee. So we got approvals from our clients in the US, since information security and data privacy were important to them. We connected all our people to the central site that allows us to connect to our clients' data centers. So productivity has really improved, and our clients were very happy. And up to now, we're still work from 100% work from home. And so even our people were so happy. To them, they have been able to spend more time at home and less time on the road trying to get to the office or going back home. Of course, there were some challenges. Of course, the mental health, some had issues on mental health. We also miss the bonding moments with our people. Culture building has been very difficult. But the good side of work from home model is that it can really be a work from anywhere model. So we now are able to recruit not just from here in Metro Manila, but our search has gone to the countryside. And now we're opening up opportunities to our folks in the countryside. And still we continue on with our boot camp. So Pointwest Technologies, we hire straight out of college. We have boot camps that would prepare new graduates to be exposed to the demands of a career at Pointwest Technologies. So that has even continued during the pandemic. Even our recruitment, our processing of applications, etc., everything went digital. So it became very easy for all of us. The pandemic certainly has accelerated the pace of digitization. The way we had been doing things had changed. We always joke each other, records are no longer stored in filing cabinets. They are now in the cloud. Okay. And And practically everything can be done virtual. Um, the pandemic certainly has accelerated the pace of digitalization. The way we had been doing things had to change. All the banks, retail companies, utility companies, insurance companies had to become digital. You can practically transact most of your transactions or most of your business online. Take one bank. This is my favorite example always, when I talk about digitalization. And this is ING Bank. I was able to open an account without having to go to a branch office. All I needed was my mobile phone, 2 government IDs with my signature that I scanned using my phone, or took a picture using my phone, took my picture using my phone, and the checks, and deposit to my newly opened bank account. So isn't that cool? You no longer have to go to a bank just to open a bank account. And not only that, since they had actually since they don't need to spend on office space and all those overhead, they had been able to be more competitive in offering interest rates to your fund. So those are the things that are happening right now. And these are the things that our company, Pointwest Technologies, has been focusing on. So even, I took the example for banks. Insurance companies, for that matter, we're trying to develop solutions wherein you simply take a picture when you have, of course, when you hit something, so you want to file a claim to your insurance companies. Just take a picture, send it to the insurance company, and there's an algorithm that would be able to cost out the amount of damages, so that the insurance company can process your particular claim without even having to do all the lengthy process of filing, going to a branch office, etc. So that's for the insurance company. For healthcare, that was it was very obvious during the pandemic, because of the risks in terms of going to the hospitals. So telemedicine was actually became a hit in terms of offering the services. So that's one. And then also order processing, payment processing, e-commerce. In fact, right now, I simply have to, I never go out. You just simply order, whether it's food, your grocery, etc. It can be delivered to your home. The payment gets processed, and that's it. So everything is now digital. So what else is our company working on? Of course, analytics. That's very important. Whether it's descriptive, predictive, or prescriptive, it's very important for a lot of the business, for a lot of our clients, because we wanted to be able to provide services to our clients so that they become leaders in their own business. We're also working on artificial intelligence and machine learning, voice as well as facial recognition, and of course, robotics process automation for repetitive steps, and which can actually be replaced by RPA or robots. Okay, I have in this page a sample of the various use cases that our company has been working on. So the various industries, from banking and finance to retail, healthcare, utilities. And on the left side, you would see the various digital enablers so that you can obtain hyper automation. So intelligent OCR. So whereas before, any typewritten document that needs to be entered into your system, you have to encode everything, etc., etc. Now you can actually scan even handwritten documents, and we are able to transform it into digital into digital data that can be processed into subsequent parts of your system. We had actually used this in some of the clients that we have, and it actually enabled us to lessen the manual effort being done by the clerks of our clients. And of course, it became faster because of the different algorithms that we had there, so that we're able to improve on the accuracy level of the scanning facility. We now have also use cases wherein you can do customer onboarding. So the usual KYC, that's know your client. And this is very important for banks. Okay, so like before you're able to open an account, you have to introduce yourself to someone, the new accounts department or group, and process all the documentation, etc. Now we have all of this using computer vision and also other stuff, even voice recognition, etc. So we try to integrate everything for hyper automation. So the list goes on and on. Maybe I can leave this particular slide so that you can see the depth of applications that all of this AI, machine learning, analytics, etc., can actually render to improve our life and of course, our business. So my key takeaways: STEM education is always important. Actually, you are very much equipped if you have had STEM education for the jobs of the future. And it's also needed in nation building. We cannot be competitive if our children are not exposed to STEM education. So that's actually one important thing that we all need to know. And of course, always keep an open mind. We need to learn and adapt. So I had to go through a lot of transformation in this 5 decades of career. And yet I was able to adapt because I had an open mind. And also I know that with a learning skill that can see me through all of this dynamic world that we are at. And of course, innovate because if you don't, you stagnate and you become irrelevant. So, and my motto has always been, there's always a better way of doing things. And so that keeps me going and searching for things that would make our lives easier. So with that, I can turn over the floor to Dr. Cheryl, right? So thank you very much. I would be open to questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you much, Ma'am Beng, for that inspiring sharing, emphasizing on the importance of STEM skills. That it's very important for the jobs of the future, and the way you have used all of these STEM skills in leading your company, Pointwest Technologies, no matter despite the challenges of the pandemic. So you have digital transformation, flexible work arrangements, and even continuous upskilling and skilling of the workers and the members of Pointwest Technologies. Of course, pioneering works in the different pillars of 4IR in the Philippines, like analytics, AI, machine learning, and robotics. So for sure, ma'am, there will be a lot of questions, very interesting questions for you in the Q&A later on. So thank you very much, Ma'am Beng. Please give a virtual round of applause for Ma'am Beng Coronel.
Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here.
Now I will turn it over to Dr. Cynthia P. Saloma.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to share with you my own journey about my life as a scientist, also as a student. And I hope that at the end of the day, I can convince some people or young women and men there in the audience, if they contemplate on a career in science, this is for you. So thank you very much again for the organizers for giving me the opportunity to share my own life journey in my career in science. So I have themed my presentation on the overarching goal that we have been doing at the Philippine Genome Center, which is building the nation's infrastructure in genomics. So I'll begin my presentation with a short video. I hope you can hear the sound.
The Philippine Genome Center is of UP, but it is not just of UP, because it serves a wider academic community outside the confines of our university, but more importantly, it serves the needs of the Filipino people.
The Philippine Genome Center is a genomics-focused and multidisciplinary institution which combines basic and applied research for the development of health and therapeutic products and services, improve the competitiveness of our agriculture and aquatic resources through research.
The Philippine Genome Center provides a full range of DNA sequencing services from high...
Sorry. Sorry,
for university, but more importantly, it serves the needs of the Filipino people.
The Philippine Genome Center is a genomics-focused and multidisciplinary institution which combines basic and applied research for the development of health and therapeutic products and services, improve the competitiveness of our agriculture and aquatic resources through research.
The Philippine Genome Center provides a full range of DNA sequencing services from high-throughput capillary sequencing to medium and high-throughput next-generation sequencing. This is available to researchers and students nationwide. The DNA Sequencing Core Facility is a government investment in research and development that we should all take advantage of. The tools are here enabling us to pursue cutting-edge research.
Aside from nurturing aspiring researchers and young talents, the Philippine Genome Center fosters collaboration within the academe and research institutes in the government and private sectors around the country and in the international community.
PGC helps transform the generated complex data into useful information for biomedical scientists, biotechnologists, biologists, and other scientists.
This is made possible by bioinformatics services to efficiently process, analyze, curate, share, and archive massive amounts of genomic data.
These available services and trainings held by the Philippine Genome Center established various innovative products and paved the way for research outputs that are directly beneficial to the Philippines. Every living organism's structure and function is governed by a genetic program. Underlying this genetic program are the codes encoded in their DNA and RNA that essentially serve as instruction manual or blueprint for the entire organism. Genomics is making sense of this manual by integrating the complex data into practical information. As such, it has revolutionized and made valuable contributions in the fields of health, agriculture, biodiversity, ethnicity, and forensics. Researches that address the needs in health and medicine, agricultural productivity for food security, and for environmental sustainability for the benefit of the nation. Since its inception, the Philippine Genome Center has been involved in strengthening the academic and research infrastructure of the country.
PGC serves as a catalyst and an enabling environment to accelerate genomics research in the Philippines. We provide a mechanism by which our local researchers and clinicians as well can pursue research and clinical genomics at the cutting edge of science.
So with a short introduction about the PGC, I'll be giving you now the outline of my presentation. In the next 15 minutes, I'll be talking about some of the motivations and the story of my life in STEM and also as a researcher and scientist here in the Philippines. Actually, there was a student, an elementary school student, the daughter of Dr. Festin, who had a homework. Her homework was to interview the life of a scientist, and she created a book for me. And I think this is really, really one of those very informative materials that are reachable and where young students can have an idea of what it is on the journey that a scientist goes through. And the main theme here really is to be very inquisitive, to always ask questions: why, how, where, and when. And of course, to be really, really driven and to reach for whatever it is you have set out to do. So here I'm be sharing with you and to many of our listeners my own journey into this field, my educational journey, as well as of course my research journey. And to a large extent, my life has been shaped by my 10 years of study in Japan. So as mentioned by Dr. Cheryl a while ago, I actually have 2 undergraduate degrees. I first finished my BS in Fisheries and UP Visayas, and I really wanted to go to grad school. So there was an opportunity to take the Mombushi Scholarship examination, but was actually underage, and I have not graduated yet. I was in my 3rd year in college. Of course, I finished in 3.5 years. And by the time I received the scholarship in the undergraduate program, I already received my scholarship or my degree in BS and Fisheries. So when I was in Tokyo, I asked people, could I go to graduate school immediately? And they told me that since the Philippine educational system was short, we only had 4 or high school is only 4 years instead of 6. And also because I did not have work experience. So it's better for me to go back to another or to take another undergraduate degree rather than because it would be difficult for me to go straight to the graduate program. So with that, I decided to go into molecular biology and have myself enrolled at the Nagoya University in the Faculty of Science. And for some of you might not have been familiar with this, but actually Nagoya University is the home for the 6 Nobel Prize winners in chemistry and physics of Japan. So I was lucky enough to get a scholarship, a Mombushi scholarship, to enter the BS in molecular biology at Nagoya University. I actually took the exam given by the Japanese embassy. This exam was very, very different from the exams that we have been taking here in the Philippines, even for UPCAT, because it's something you cannot really guess. You have to know the questions that they were asking, but at the same time, of course, the math questions were really, really hard. So I entered the Mombushi. I entered Japan with a Mombushi scholarship. Spent 1 year in Japan, in Tokyo, to study Japanese language. So this is really, really fast course. And then, of course, I decided to go into molecular biology at Nagoya University in Japan, where I had the opportunity to meet wonderful Filipinos and faculty members there. Then my laboratory is actually transferred to Osaka University, the entire lab transferred. So I went with my professor. And prior to that, of course, I took the entrance exam for the medical school, graduate school in medicine, and finished my MS in medical science at the Osaka University Graduate School of Medicine. And really a very, very new campus, a very new school. We just transferred to the new campus. So we had state-of-the-art equipment and we had access to some of the best laboratories, at least for our classes. But of course, my laboratory is across the hospital and it was very, very convenient. And then I also went into my PhD in physiology in the Graduate School of Science. Through all the process, actually, I only had one advisor, Dr. Hisato Kondo. So I just would like to share with you, this was me, April 1, 1988, when me together with 49 other students from 14 countries around the world, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region, went on to study Japanese language at Tokyo University of Foreign Studies. So this was really a crash course before we can go to a BS degree in Japan. So it's me here when I was 20 years old. So eventually I graduated with a degree in molecular biology at Nagoya University, and these were some of my classmates. As really the driving force behind this is the fact that I really realized that in Japan, for example, in a batch of 40 students at the science, at the Faculty of Science, there were only 10 females. So these were some of my batchmates. Some of them are in physics, probably one physics, one in math. and then probably 7 in molecular biology or in biology. So this was a nice time for us to finish our undergraduate degree in molecular biology. Eventually, of course, as I mentioned, I moved to Osaka University and did my MS degree at the Graduate School of Science. And this was during the Kobe earthquake. Somebody lent me this hakama, and this was how I looked like when I finished my MS degree, together with my friend from Thailand, who was also my friend in Tokyo. We moved together to Osaka University. So eventually, of course, I finished my PhD degree, and and by then I was already married. So for us, it is really, really important that we are getting a lot of support from your partner, or in my case, from my husband and my family. So this was my graduation day with a Japanese kimono lent to me by the wife of the host professor, Mr. Saloma, in Japan. So that was then when I decided to return to the Philippines, because my husband, of course, has been waiting for me for more than 5 years. I just would like to share to you this picture. I looked for this picture, and this is actually Dr. Kishimoto. And Dr. Kishimoto was the university president at the time of my graduation. I gave the graduation speech on behalf of the graduating foreign students during this ceremony. And I am using this picture just to point to you that actually Dr. Kishimoto was one of the developers of the interleukin receptors, or the discoverers of the of the cytokine receptor system, and was very popular for the discovery interleukin 6, and of course the interleukin 6 receptor system. Then they developed an antibody, a humanized antibody against interleukin 6, or against cytokines, and that is actually now tocilizumab, which has been used in many treatments during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I returned to the Philippines in 1998, and I joined NIMBB. At that time, it was still a molecular biology program. It was not yet a national institute. And I decided to start the Laboratory of Molecular Cell Biology. The original laboratory's name was actually the Neurobiology Research Group. And then when we became a national institute, I decided to rename the lab, instead of NRG, or Neurobiology Research Group, into the Laboratory of Molecular and Cell Biology. So a lot of the things that I did for the laboratory in MBB, where we had journal seminars and then classes, lab meetings on Saturdays. At that time, I did not have children yet, so I was there in the lab every Saturday. So it was a very nice time for us with the many young students there, because we decided to create a mouse room and so on and so forth. And we did not really have a real proper animal facility at that time, so we designed our own lab cages, or mouse cages. So it was an interesting time, and as you well know, in MBB, there are so many talented students, and it was fun to be with them. And this was during this was in our previous laboratory, or a previous building in Albert Hall. Of course, we have now moved to a much newer, more modern building at NIMBB, building in the National Science Complex. So during this time, I also introduced a new course called Genes and Development, because we did not have this in the MBB curriculum. So this is now a core course among fourth-year students of MBB. And this is really introducing the concept of genes and their role in the development of an organism. So this is like a developmental biology course. This is really actually a developmental biology course. And so I helped also transition MBBP to the program into the National Institute. And I realized that even at a young age here in the Philippines, we were given the opportunity to actualize our vision of NIMBB at that time. And that is something that probably, had I been working in another country, would not have been possible. I also helped, we had the opportunity, we went to Malacanang Palace, we petitioned our government. At that time, the president was Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. We petitioned our government to increase the budget in science and technology as a percentage of GDP. And we were lucky enough, and eventually the National Science Complex was born. We received a total of about 1.7 billion pesos, and that is why that formed the core of the building boom here at the National Science Complex. Of course, the equipment, as well as the some of the service facilities here, the core facilities here at the College of Science. So I was also involved in that product, and it was very it was a great time because we thought that this was the only opportunity, in fact, that we could be involved in making our own building. And now our building is really, really very distinctive in the sense that the architecture is like an RNA, so we call it the RNA loop. And eventually, during the 2009, 2010, 2008, actually, there was a Hugo Pacific convention in Cebu, and the university president then, President Roman, asked us, do you have something like this here in the country? And we said no. And then, of course, the 4 ladies of PGC were assigned to create, to conceptualize a genome center for the Philippines. And those were, so for the interest of everyone, the Philippine Genome Center was started by 4 women, Dr. Amelia Guevara, Dr. Giselle Concepcion, Chancellor Carmencita Padilla, and myself as the youngest of the 4. So here we moved, our temporary home of the PGC was in the 2nd floor of the NIMB building. And this is the RNA loop that I was talking about. So we did not have a PGC building at that time. So the NIMBB was the source of the talent for many of our activities for DNA sequencing, which I actually started with the help of PCR GOST. So eventually in 2017, we were able to finish the PGC building, and then now we have a permanent home for the PGC. So the Philippine Genome Center has actually several research programs in health and biodiversity, in forensics, as well as in ethnicity. And all these activities are in agriculture, fisheries, and forestry. And all these activities are supported by our core facilities. So I started this DNA sequencing core facility. Dr. Luisma started with a bioinformatics core facility. Now Dr. Neil Bascos has just started the proteomics core facility. And within the DNA sequencing core facility is the newest facilities, the clinical genomics lab, which was very, very important for RT-PCR testing for COVID-19, and is very much involved in the genomic biosurveillance effort. And of course, we realized that we should really have to have a biobank. So our first director here was Dr. Katap of IB, and now it's Dr. Another IB professor heading our biobank. So we do technical services, we do research, and the most important probably is the training and human resource development. And this is very, very important that we train our people, particularly because we just cannot import anyone with a lot of training, because we cannot pay them the salaries that they have been used abroad. But at any rate, that has been a very, very productive time for us. And with the SARS-CoV-2 pandemic, we have been involved. It was very important that the place and the equipment were in place for us to do genomic biosurveillance. So when the Philippine Genome Center was actually conceptualized more than 10 years ago, we really envisioned that there will come a time that there will be a pandemic and that borders will be closed, and the Philippines should be prepared for that eventuality based on the experience, of course, of the Hong Kong Genome Center, which really flowered because of the SARS pandemic in 2003. So when the pandemic occurred in 2020, we were ready. And when asked by the Department of Health and the President if we can help in the effort, we said yes. And this was really one of the reasons why we created a DNA core facility in our country rather than sending our samples abroad. So here, this is just data from bioinfo.com, outbreak.info, that tells you, for example, that in the beginnings of February to July of 2021, we really had alpha and beta sequences, but eventually that was overtaken by Delta and now Omicron. And we, of course, also showed that there was actually a local variant with its own signature mutation, and that was 3.3, or the Theta variant. We also now know that BA.2.3, this is a Philippine sub-lineage of the stealth Omicron. We also facilitated its discovery and its sequencing and analysis with 2 new additional unique mutations. So there have been several genomics initiatives that we have done at the PGC. And throughout this effort, it was very important for me in my own personal journey that I have very, very good support from my family and from my husband. But at the same time that I am surrounded by a very, very talented crop of people, young Filipino students and researchers who share with us the vision that our science can be able to, can be used to answer societal problems and when needed by our country. And I for the many young people who are listening today, it is very, very important that for those of you who believe that you have the talent as well as the determination to pursue a career in science, I would like to really encourage you to pursue this career, be you be a female or male. This is a very rewarding experience, knowing that the science we do can actually make answers to societal problems. So with that, thank you very much, and I'll be open to questions later on.
Thank you very much, Dr. For the insightful sharing and emphasizing on broadening our perspective regarding the various programs of the Philippine Genome Center and their diverse applications, not only in, of course, the DNA core sequencing, but also in food security, agriculture, and even environmental sustainability, and a lot more. And I like the one that you said, ma'am, at the end, doing science for the country. So so for kids and our teachers who are listening now, so please pay attention to the words of our speakers. So thank you very much again, Dr. Palma Saloma. And so we're going to move on to the third panelist, and then later on we'll have our Q&A. So we turn it over now to Dr. Nicole Amberg. Dr. Amberg, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. I'm actually right now in Austria, so for me it's the morning, but I love that this digital technology allows me to be with you in Manila today. As already mentioned in the introduction, I'm currently an active researcher at the Institute of Science and Technology Austria, and I'm also a founder of an initiative that should support women, and in the future, hopefully other groups of minorities to aspire leadership positions in science. And let me give you a very brief overview about my academic trajectory. So on this image, you can see me in my natural habitat in the lab, pipetting. I'm usually working with mice, and currently we have genetically engineered mice where only very few cells can have fluorescence in green or in red, and then gives rise to really beautiful images in the microscope. And I have to say, I'm doing this now since several years, but every day I go to the microscope and I look at these samples. I really, really love them. And that tells me that this is just a perfect job for me. But how did I end up in this job? So I was born in a pretty remote village in Germany, and none of my parents or anybody else in my family was an academic. But education has always been important in my family. So then my parents did everything to allow me to go to university, which I then did in Vienna, since I have a big heart for the famous chocolate cake that we have in Vienna. I just had to go there to study and eat more cakes. And I studied molecular biology, and that I finished back then still with a so-called diploma degree. Nowadays, this is also a master's degree. And I also studied zoology. I have to admit that I'm a horrible zoologist because everybody else in the studies was fully excited when we went to excursions, and we had to collect butterflies and beetles and everything that was crawling around outside. And for me, this was just the most horrible moment in all of my studies. But I have to say, I think it's also good for you to realize what you don't like so much, because this is very important knowledge, and you won't spend years of your lives doing something that you don't like. And still, I had a lot of knowledge to take with me from the zoology studies, so they were absolutely not for nothing. They were really good for me. So then after obtaining my master's degree, I moved on to my graduate studies at the Medical University of Vienna. That was a really great PhD program because it also had funding allowing me to stay for several months in one of the most famous labs in the whole world. And that was in Brussels, in Belgium. And I'm still very good friends with them over there. My mentor from back then, that was actually 10 years ago, we are still very good friends, and we met last month in a conference in London. And since this lab in Brussels, despite having this famous Belgian chocolate, also love Sacher cake so much, it's now a tradition that I'm sending them a box of Sacher cake every Christmas, which I think is also nice, that you can invent your own rituals with people you like in the world. And I then moved on to perform my postdoctoral studies. And I felt I need to switch fields and gears a bit, because I had the feeling now I've learned so much about immunology, about skin stem cells, about other types of cancer, but I've never really touched the neuroscience field. So I felt this was now the perfect opportunity. As we've already heard this afternoon, we are lifelong learners, and that's what I made use of. So I'm now trying to understand the role of epigenetics in building a correctly sized brain. For that, I have Austrian Science Fund funded research project, which makes me kind of independent with my research direction, gives me a lot of freedom. It obviously also gives me some funding, so I can pay for my own experiments, which is just a great deal for me. So for the future, I now want to become a fully independent group leader, so leading just more than maybe myself and 2 students. And on the long-term goal, now that I've also seen all of these amazing women here in the panel, now I also want to become an institute head in academia. And through all of my years in the academic research field, there's a couple of skills I've learned. And maybe you will be surprised that the project-specific methodological skills that you need to perform your science project come at the very last. Because this is something that you just learn on the go. So you don't need to be afraid when you go to a lab that there is something you are not able to do. It's completely natural. You've never done this before. And it's that lab duty to train you. So, but there is other, I think, way more important skills to maybe have in the beginning, but also to realize that they need some refinement. So the biggest one for me was to develop patience and dealing with failure, because when you are a scientist in an academic research lab, about 80% of what you do is going to be a failure, and you have to start from scratch. But that allows you to critically think of what might have gone wrong, to self-reflect. Did you do a mistake, or was it something else that was not correct? And then to just try it again. So I would consider a scientist a professional problem solver. And I think that's also a very important skill in life. Besides then obviously learning how to manage your project, that includes mostly also to manage yourself and your time. At one point, you will be given people to train. So now you can also learn people management and already practice leadership on a small scale, but it's important on a larger scale later on when you lead your whole research group. As a scientist, I think we have to structure our creativity in a way that in the end we have useful output. I think what I'm doing all my life is to say yes to opportunities. Of course, this costs time and effort. But I think this is it's probably one of the best advice I can give to anybody. Just say yes to opportunities. You don't know where they may lead. You don't know initially if something will be useful or not, but just say yes, because you will always learn something along the way. And now, having been really privileged to have experienced a lot of great opportunities, I'm now also trying to create opportunities for others to have the same or even better benefits in their life. Okay, despite all of this seems pretty awesome, I also had to deal with harassment and bias. I think this is something that is kind of unavoidable, at least maybe for a woman in science. But yeah, you know, it might happen, and then you have to deal with it. And so you essentially have to learn to ignore those voices that are destructive and toxic. Yes, and as I've mentioned, our project-specific methodological skills in the lab come at the very end. Yeah, you've already seen in the introduction video the place where I'm working at the moment. It's the beautiful campus of the Institute of Science and Technology in Austria, which was founded about 13 years ago. And it's still a growing campus. Which is also great to see as an active researcher while being there. I think we've doubled the number of employees, and I can basically watch certain decisions that the management is taking, which I personally find very interesting to take with me into the future. So we are an interdisciplinary research institute. So we offer mathematical and physical sciences, computer sciences, and life sciences. And within the life sciences, we mostly focus on neuroscience, developmental biology, and biochemistry. And I'm currently belonging to one of the neuroscience groups. Yeah, so since we are a very young institute, we have a couple of measures to evaluate our success. So we basically do this by ranking our success rate for prestigious funding, like the European Research Council fundings, which usually give about 2 million euros per grant. So they are highly competitive. And we have I think we have the best success rate in whole Europe to get one of those grants. Also in the Nature Index for normalized ranking, we are on the 3rd position. And also our professors and faculty get awarded with many prestigious awards. So this tells us that the whole institute is going into a great direction. But now I think excellence and world-class research are maybe not really enough to give back to society, because that's I also think is a duty of scientists to give back to the society. And maybe not only in scientific or technological knowledge, but also in terms of science communication, science outreach, science education, and activities to promote diversity, equality, and inclusion. And that last point is what I want to spend a bit more time on, because that's also something I'm a little bit known for. So in last year, in 2021, the Institute had a whole event focus for the whole year on the topic Women in Science. And we were discussing a lot of topics like, why do we need gender balance? How can we reach it? Once we've reached it, how can we potentially maintain it? And what can we as a science institution actually do for that? So we had an artist poster covering one of the walls at one building on the campus. We had a science exhibition with many men and women scientists of the Institute being a part of it. So I was also quite privileged among mostly professors to also be featured in this exhibition. We had a big panel discussion event where we had men and women in the panel discussion, because in the end, I think diversity and equity challenges we can only overcome if we all talk together. And then we have the STEM Fatale event series. So we usually invite very successful women from their fields to the campus, and then we have them give a scientific talk. And then we also have a women's roundtable discussion where only our women scientists can informally, really in a roundtable for 1 or 2 hours, ask questions, get to know how this woman navigated through her career, what were the obstacles, what does she think, what can be improved, and so on. And yeah, we've had great success with it. So together with some colleagues, I then founded the STEM Fatale initiative, because we felt we have to bring this to a way broader audience than just our campus. So I guess I can, yeah. And I mean, usually Austrians are pretty much known for complaining. So we determine a problem and then we love to complain about it. And my friend Lisa, she is now known for this very famous saying, which on the top is in German, but below I tried to translate it. And she said, we should not just complain, we have to take action. And it sounds very simple, but there is great truth in it. And that's why I really love this quote. And maybe this is also my biggest take home message in the end. So a very brief history about the STEM Fatale initiative. So we founded it actually in the very first lockdown in 2020. So that was the chance I took away from the COVID crisis and the lockdowns, because usually I have to go to the lab and perform experiments. Now, obviously, I can do a lot of data analysis from home, but all of my other usual hours of the day that I would spend doing pipetting and microscoping and so on were now basically free. So that allowed me to sit down and come up with a concept together with the initial team. For this concept, we were already, as already mentioned, awarded with a research prize. And we were then mostly operating through our website, stemfatale.com. And our aims and vision, So everything is based on raising awareness. And then we are having 3 main focuses. That is a survey. Then we want to have networking events and a mentoring program. Along the way, we were very happy to recruit further and very motivated team members. One of them is actually a man, which I think is absolutely great that we have a man joining our forces to create a better, basically a better science world for everybody. So what do I mean with awareness? So I think as a woman scientist, there is many things we can do to target the general public. And that is to raise awareness about science and women in science in general. So I think on the personal level, one can engage with influencers. Or if one of you out there is an influencer, maybe you want to interview a scientist in the lab and just show to all of your audience how great science could be. As a scientist, I've now seen many people running successful social media channels that can promote women in STEM. As a researcher, you can give a lot of interviews for podcasts, magazines, or TV shows, or participate in discussions. And I think there's also a lot that institutions can do. So, for example, engage with kids and the general public in outreach activities. And that also gives you, again, the opportunity to involve your women scientists, for example, so that the general public really directly gets into touch with those that actively perform the research. As institutions or universities, you could engage in women promoting campaigns like we kids, like a summer university or a summer campus or all of these activities. So now I've just added a couple of pictures where you can see me, not only talking that this would be great, but actually proving to you that I am actively doing all of this. So I've been invited to the Austrian embassy in Berlin to participate in a panel discussion. I've been hosted by influencers on their Instagram TV channels. I'm interview partner for podcasts and for magazines. And yeah, I just love our open campus and outreach events where I can show to the general public and to kids what kind of great things we do at the Institute. All right, but now, okay, that was the general public, so we can raise more awareness, maybe bring more kids, girls, boys in the end into science and technology. But what about those who already made their way into the scientific community? So how can we strengthen that? And so here I think it's our biggest goal to raise awareness about the challenges for women scientists and how to overcome them. So I think on the personal level, what one should always do is invest in yourself. Be a role model to peers and to the next generation, because just because you might have had it hard in your life, it doesn't mean that you should also give other people a hard life. Make it better for the next generation. I think it's also important to speak about your activities at conferences. You can also write articles about your ideas on diversity and inclusion. And there is also many, many things that institutions can do. I'm not going to list all of them right now. Just to show you again, I'm also trying to be a role model here on the personal level. So I love to invest in myself. Then that you need to have the time and the money, obviously, to do that. But in the end, I think I always went home with greater knowledge and more confidence. Together with colleagues, we've now also written an essay for the Journal of Cell Science on diversity, equity, and inclusion that should be published in the next couple of months, I think. So maybe stay tuned for that. I'm also trying to encourage our next generation to be brave and self-conscious scientists. So something that we've now done with STEM Fatale initiative, together with another great initiative that's called #GirlsGoTech, is that we had a creativity contest for school kids. And more than 570 kids have handed in great contributions about how they see women scientists, and they were portraying women in many different ways, with sculptures, with videos, with paintings, with websites. It was really great to see. And obviously it's nice to reward the young people. So what we have is an external jury to really judge all of the submissions. So many thanks to them. And we also have acquired some great sponsors that allowed us to now hand over amazing awards like a microscope, 3D doodlers, a Raspberry Pi, which I would also love to have for myself because I'm not really good in coding. So I think I should buy that thing for myself. And that award ceremony will be held in 2 days, actually, on the campus. And the winners will also get campus tours and get to know scientists. And with that, we just try to lower the threshold for young kids to interact with scientists. You know, instead of seeing a scientist like in an ivory tower somewhere up there, unreachable, we really try to make the scientists reachable and kind of touchable and approachable. And do I have more time? I guess I've already used up all of my time, right? Okay, maybe I can just quickly say 2 more words. Or am I already?
Oh, you can. Please proceed, Dr. Amberg.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so let me quickly tell you what we did with the survey that we had on the STEM Fatale website. Since we are scientists ourselves, there is nothing more that we love to do than to collect data, analyze that data, and in the end, interpret it and publish. And with that survey, we are trying to determine several factors that could impact women's career in STEM. So that could be positive factors, but it could also be negative factors. And we closed the survey with 343 participants, and that were women of all STEM disciplines, of all career stages, and of all age groups. So we ensured that we have a good coverage. And we are going to publish these results in a scientific journal, as well as like in an easily accessible policy note that should also be accessible to the general public, involve relatively easy language to understand. And we want to then meet with politicians and with institutional decision makers to invent better measures to increase the participation of women in STEM in general, but also the participation of women in leadership positions. But I'm not gonna bother you with all of our results. I can maybe probably afterwards share these slides with everyone, so you can read up what our survey has brought to us. So if you want to get in touch afterwards, here are a couple of web links and social media channels that you could use. So on the upper left, here is all of the information how to get to know more about the IST Austria. There is a lot of information about how to get in touch with the STEM Fatale initiative. You can also approach me directly via LinkedIn, Twitter, or email. And yeah, thank you so much for your attention and having me here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amberg, for emphasizing on the role, various roles of women scientists and how to do more through science communication, science outreach, and of course, your unique programs really narrowing the gap between young STEM learners and of course the scientists. So providing opportunities for them to interact. Thank you very much, Dr. Amberg. And I think we're now ready to have our question and answer portion for our panel. I may invite our speakers earlier, Dr. Saloma, and also Ma'am Coronel to join us in the panel. So I'm going to read some of the questions. Some of them are addressed to all of you, and some are actually addressed individually. So let me start with this first question addressed to everyone. And then let me just read it from our audience. So in the span of your career, what leadership approach has been the most effective, especially in your field? Probably we can start with Ma'am Beng, followed by Dr. Saloma, and then Dr. Nicole. Ma'am Beng, please, thank you.
So actually, in all through those 50 years of my career, actually the most important skill really is in terms of empathy. I think that is something that is needed, not just as someone dealing with my profession, but also as an entrepreneur. So it's really getting to a win-win situation in all cases. But apart from that, I guess it's really imbibing a culture of excellence. And so that has also been I've been able to also develop, inspire a community of leaders in terms of having that, excellence as your particular focus. So I think those are the things that have actually, strengthened me in those different roles that I have played and as a leader in our particular industry. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Beng. Two E's, empathy and excellence. Thank you, Ma'am Beng. Dr. Saloma, please.
Regarding this question, I think for me as administrator and a research director, I think it's really, really important to spot talent, to discover talent in the staff, and to place them in positions where they most fit. So that's number one, and to nurture this talent among our young people. So there's so many very gifted people surrounding us in MBB, in PGC. And for me, it's giving them the opportunity that can maximize this talent. The other one that I really would like to emphasize also is human relations. It's very, very important that we keep good working relationships with our team and also with our administrative staff, because at the end of the day, you want the things to keep moving. You want everybody to be with you in your in the vision that you crafted for your institution. So it is very important that you make them realize that we are all part of a team, not just the researchers, the scientists, but even our cleaners, our janitors, particularly during the lockdown. We are all united in the fact that we realize that what we were doing was beyond us. And the other one that I would like to emphasize is also as a scientist and as an administrator, is we have always been trained to anticipate things, anticipate needs. We never begin an experiment when everything is not there. So particularly with the way by which we procure materials in the university and in the country, it takes us 2 years, 1 year, 6 months before everything will be in place. So those kinds of planning are very, very important. And the question and the way we should always anticipate the needs of people, the needs of administration, the needs of the institution are things that are very, very important to make the institution very, very cohesive. That's all from my end.
Thank you, Dr. Saloma. Anticipating the needs and the importance of making everything, people, resources, and of course the processes be coherent. Thank you for that, Dr. Saloma. Dr. Amberg, please.
I think resilience is a very, very important skill that you also can develop over time, for sure. I think empathy is highly important, especially when you are a leader yourself and you want to foster the next generation. I really loved this statement saying that the scientists should also appreciate the administrative personnel. That's something I always did. And I mean, also the cleaning ladies. Sometimes I have students, they say to me, oh, wow, you say good morning to everybody, even to the cleaning ladies. And I feel like, why shouldn't I? They are human beings, just like we as scientists. So I think some human decency should always be in place. And I think with empathy, that really makes the whole working environment a much better place. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amberg. And thank you for all the responses. Resilience, excellence, empathy, and anticipating the needs, and of course, going for coherence. I just want to also at this point mention to everyone that the Secretary of the Department of Science and Technology is here with us this afternoon. Grace our Women in STEAM Careers Webinar Series. Sec Boy, how are you po? Magandang hapon po.
Magandang hapon, good afternoon to everybody, and it's an honor to be here with you.
Sec Boy, would you like to listen to? We have a few more questions. Would it be okay to still proceed with a few more questions, and then
Go ahead.
we'll be doing the ceremony later on.
Please.
Thank you very much, Sec Boy. Salamat po. Opo. For the second question to our panelists, earlier you've mentioned about some of the challenges that you have faced, and probably for Nicole, she mentioned about some probably bias or harassment. Probably if you can cite some of specific challenges that you have faced and how you were able to deal with them or probably turn them around, just of course for the programs and initiatives that we have to really proceed or move forward. Probably at this point, we can start with Dr. Saloma, and then we go to Dr. Amberg, and then Mambeg.
So there's a challenge. So a lot of people are always emphasizing, for example, gender equality and the challenges for women. I just would like to note that in the University of the Philippines system, we have more women, female students than men. It has always been 60-40. And we grew up with the knowledge that we are not any less inferior. We can be the best and the brightest in the class. So that has always been our guiding principle. So for Filipino women researchers, I don't think it's really an issue to be excellent because you're a woman. I don't think it's really an issue here. It's really just a question of competence and talent. So at least for that, for the Philippines in the educational system, our professors, many are women. We have many managers and researchers and scientists who are women. So we grew up with a lot of role models. Of course, the challenge, Cheryl, and to everyone is really family life balance, because we also have our own families and the demands of our work are really important, but we also have a very good system. So for the rest, for us, for example, living on campus in the University of the Philippines, Diliman has been very important because the laboratory is nearby, we don't have traffic, and that has been a system that has really improved and that has really worked for us. So what else should I say? I think I leave the other speakers to share their thoughts too.
Thank you, Dr. Saloma. Talking about, second to that, regarding the case in the University of the Philippines with 640, and it's always been about merit and competence in the university. And there's also raised the issue regarding what Dr. Saloma said about, the need for family life balance. No? This is one of the challenges actually for women in STEAM careers. Aside from doing your duties in your work, there's a second shift. They always say that there's a second shift at home. So you have two shifts, no? the one in the university or in the work, and then another shift at home. So, but yeah. So,
for example, Cheryl, for me, I actually have 3 shifts because I have my NIMBB, my lab, and then I have PGC, and then I have my household. So 3 shifts. Okay. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Saloma. Now we give it to you, Dr. Amberg, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so in the Institute of Science and Technology, Austria, we really try to have an inclusive working environment. It's very important to us that we have measures in place that should prevent harassment and bias. So we have a good practice officer. So she transitioned through a lot of job descriptions, but essentially it's her job to make sure that everybody behaves on campus, that during the hiring process, there is no discrimination based on gender, race, age, whatsoever. She also makes sure that our language in job advertisement is kind of neutral. So there's a lot of wordings that would rather attract men and would discourage women to apply, for example. So this is something we are very much keen on. Still, you can't avoid that somebody might get jealous at you, at your scientific success, and then, tries several things. In the end, I always felt I need to be kind and allow that person to personally develop, because it's kind of a character flaw, and I can't just blame somebody for not being perfect. So I always tried to even be a bit understanding and to allow the situation to get better. And when I realized it doesn't, then I made use of the hierarchy that we have in place, right? Because usually there's always a boss above you. And even for our institute presidents, there is the scientific board on top. So yes, then I simply took kind of the shortcut, because I also had to balance my own time investment into such conflicts, essentially. And I delegated it to my boss, and I asked him to deal with the situation, because at one point I think it's just impossible to control somebody else when you are really on a bilateral, on the same hierarchy level. But I think everyone has to find, I think it always depends on the nature of a potential conflict, but we really try to create an environment where as little conflicts as possible can happen.
Thank you, Dr. Nicole, for that, teaching us about dealing with conflict and how to really address it to the proper channel, so that you know when to take a step back, just from toxic probably conflicts within the institution. So thank you for that. Now we go to to Ma'am Beng.
Yeah.
Ma'am Beng, please.
Yeah, as I have related earlier on, I was a victim of gender bias right from the start, right after graduation. So they were very discriminating in terms of whom to recruit from those who graduated from chemical engineering. So at that point, I told myself that when I get my opportunity to really be able to roll out policies, implement rules, regulations, I will make sure that there's no gender bias in terms of recruitment as well as advancement in terms of career, because there's no dependence on gender in any work that we do. It's really dependent on your skills, talent, as well as your passion to deliver the outcomes that are required from you. So that's the first thing that actually hit me. And it hit me hard, but then I know that I have a very good chemical engineering background, and that can see me through in whatever field that I can go to. And in fact, IT, which was a green field at that time, welcome anyone. So that's the first difficulty that I have. Second, as Dr. Saloma mentioned, the work-life balance, I call it work-life harmony, because you can never balance the demands of your family and demands of your work. And so I try to harmonize wherever you're needed, and that's where you need to go. And in fact, we're quite lucky, because in our country, we have a very good extended family support. We have the grandparents are with you, etc. The titas, the titos are with you. And of course, we have house help. So that actually is a plus for us Filipino women in the Philippines. Unfortunately, for the other countries, it's not an opportunity. So be thankful for what we have right now. But of course, it can be better, but we make do with what we have. So that's it. Yeah.
Thank you, Ma'am Beng. Work-life harmony. So thank you for reminding us about it. And of course, appreciating the unique support that we have here in the Philippines. So of course, it's not true for the rest of the world, but let's be grateful for what we have and appreciate how we're able to harmonize these resources and support system available to us. Thank you for that. Probably just last question before we have Sec Boy and Secretary de la Peña for the message, and then we can go back to some of the questions later on, if that's okay with the panelists. If that's okay. Earlier, there was this statement made by Dr. Amberg regarding saying yes to opportunities, and somehow this was actually touched on by Ma'am Beng regarding learning, being open to learning. And for me, for this particular question, we have a lot of teachers and educators in the audience, and being women leaders, what would you tell our teachers and educators regarding opportunities, and at the same time, preparing for a career in STEM? Probably at this point, we can start with Dr. Amberg, followed by Ma'am Ben, Coronel, and then lastly, we have Dr. Saloma. Thank you.
Yeah, so to create opportunities, especially for the young people, I think there should be exchange between the research institutions and the schools, for example, to have dedicated programs in the research institutes, like we've also seen today, to have the high school kids, for example, but even the younger ones, to go to research institutes, to have a little own project, maybe to get a bit of a theory, maybe do some 3D printing, meet scientists along the day, and just have a great time. So, but these opportunities, they have to be created both by the institutions as well as by the schools. So there needs to be a lot of interaction, that there should be a really good flow for that. And I know from my institute that we have a whole team taking care of this. So this is not such an easy fix as it sounds. But all the kids I've seen so far in the last 6 years that I've spent in the institute, they had this sparkle in their eyes, and it just brought so much joy to all of us. So in the end, you know, all of your efforts and your time you spent for this week with the kids, they are such well placed. Yeah, and for example, like this school creativity contests that I had been organizing with my friend together. I mean, I just had this idea and I talked to her. I simply usually talk to people, and then I come up with something bigger. Then I realize how much work all of this is, but then it's way too late to stop it. And in the end, I again have these kids with sparkle in their eyes. So I think sometimes you just also really have to go for it, but for sure one can do it in a way better structured manner. Also, yeah, I think the most important thing is that there is really this connection between the institutions and like the research institutions and the schools.
Thank you for that, Dr. Amberg. Ma'am Beng, please.
Okay. I have always been actively involving the academe in all of those industry associations that I had been involved with, particularly in terms of teacher training. We've had projects at PSIA, the Philippine Software Industry Association, where we try to teach the professors or teachers in terms of the new technologies or the things that we are working on, because I guess there's a time lag between what is being taught and what is being applied in the business and in the industry that we are at. So that's one of the things that we try to impart additional knowledge to teachers so that they can be kept abreast of the newer technologies that are coming in. And then the other one that I actually also provided was an opportunity for the teachers to do role playing. So we had sponsored a university where we took all the teachers teaching their computer subjects, etc. And we actually applied role playing. So one teacher had, or one professor had to be the project manager, one to be a developer, one to be an architect, one to be a tester, etc. So that we went through the entire life cycle of a project. And so they are able to experience exactly what the students that they're teaching will actually be doing once they graduate. Because sometimes it's just conceptual for a lot of people, but actually being experiential is something that really hit the mark in terms of creating that particular knowledge base that you we would want to promote further and actually have it on a wider scale, because that's a very effective way of creating opportunities also for our teachers. So that's my take on it.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Beng. Dr. Saloma.
So the Philippine Genome Center is really in a unique opportunity to create opportunities to a lot of people. The field of genomics is really in its infancy in our country, and it is very, very important that number one, we create the enough human resource and skills for bioinformatics as well as for genomics. And at the same time, we also want them to start early. So we started with the help of the DOST, and Secretary Boy de la Peña is here as an ardent supporter of our genomics junior camp that was very, very successful. We trained the best and the brightest students from the Philippine Science High School system for a week-long opportunity to sequence their own bacteria and do the bioinformatics analysis themselves. So that was one. That was really fun. We wanted to continue it to other STEM schools, and then the pandemic happened. But just last month, we were able to test again the online modules to the UPIS high school students. So we wanted, so of course, for now, we do it in an online system, but there's nothing really like extracting and doing the DNA libraries of the bacteria that they're doing. So we have been doing that, of course, with funding support from the DOST. In terms of research, we have been creating opportunities for our hospitals and biomedical researchers. It's really a journey where there is a lot of meetings and coordination because they are on the ground, meaning to say they know the problems with our patients, they know, but sometimes the way by which it should be attacked in a manner which we can use, where we can use the tools of molecular biology are not yet there. So that is a lot of coordination meeting within our program for health, empowering our different hospitals and research institutions so that they can incorporate genomics in their proposals. So we write proposals for them, and that is in the field of health. The other aspect that we are going into is also in the field of agriculture. So we go around the country through the research institutions like the Philippine Carabao Center and others, the Philippine Coconut Authority, that these are the things that we can do together. So we write proposals. So it's a lot of capacity building activities, but we are really, really very thankful that we have surrounded by an energetic team of people who share our vision, and at the same time are very supportive Department of Science and Technology and the University of the Philippines system.
Thank you very much to our panelists for those responses, emphasizing on the role of the government, industry, and different academic institutions and even schools, for really harnessing the power of STEM ecosystem, broadening the perspectives of educators, igniting the sparks in the eyes of our learners, and of course reaching out to the strengths of the different institutions. Thank you very much, po. At this particular point, we're going to pause for a while from the discussion, and because you already have Secretary de la Peña for this afternoon, and I know that how busy Secretary de la Peña is, and so at this point, I turn it over to Doc Helen Catalan, our MC for this afternoon, to introduce the Secretary Boy for his closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you po, Ma'am Sher. We are honored and privileged to have with us this afternoon the Secretary of the Department of Science and Technology. To give his message, let us all warmly welcome the DOST Secretary, Honorable Fortunato de la Peña.
Again, my warmest greetings to everyone on this concluding session of the webinar series, which started on February 28 and had other sessions on March 8, March 18, and today we have the last session. To Her Excellency Ambassador Vita Rasulian of the Austrian Embassy, to Dr. Cheryl Lynn Monterola, who is now the director of the UP National Institutes for Science and Mathematics Education and Development, to our distinguished speakers and guests, and to all the men, women, and girls joining us today. It is my pleasure to be with you in this webinar series focused on women in STEM leadership for a post-COVID world. Through the collective efforts of various institutions and community-based movements all around the world, we have seen over the years some highlights and progress in bridging the gender gap in our society. However, our work is yet to be over, as women still remain underrepresented and even unempowered in some sectors, including the broad fields of science, technology, engineering, arts and culture, and mathematics, or what we refer to as STEAM. Science, technology, and innovation is rapidly growing in terms of importance, and industries that have built their enterprises over them continue to expand and increase at an unprecedented rate. This sector will therefore continue to play defining roles in our society and offer more high growth economic opportunities for people working in this field. And what we want is for women to be able to step into the plate and maximize the benefits of these growing opportunities for them. We must then pave the way and create an enabling environment so that women and girls would be at the crossroads of these growing industries, both as active contributors and as beneficiaries. We want a woman to be on board in every field of science. We cannot undermine their vast experiences and the possible contributions in science, technology, and innovation for this half of our population. Every woman working in science and technology is an inspiration and a role model for all other women and young girls, that they too can excel in these fields in the future. These require breaking deeply rooted stereotypes and creating a science and technology ecosystem that is more inclusive and empowering for women and girls. These goals are embedded and mainstreamed both at the Department of Science and Technology's R&D programs and projects, as well as in our administrative activities. In fact, the department has been actively supporting the Magna Carta for Women through various capacity building activities and incentive programs that promote gender mainstreaming in the workplace. We are also pleased to note that the DOST is making progress in closing the gap in enrollment in our Philippine Science High School system, with more than 47% of our student enrollment being females as of the current school year, and of course the rest, 53% males. By starting them young in the fields of science, we hope that these students, well, men and women alike, will pursue advanced degrees in science and technology and take part in the future of a highly technological workplace. When we close the gender gap in STEAM education, we also lessen the skills gap and further increase employment and accelerate productivity in our major industries. However, ensuring women's participation and inclusion is only a step towards a truly gender equal workplace and society. We must also empower them to lead and innovate by providing a supportive organizational culture that will ensure their protection from stereotypes and gender bias, as well as policies that will help them thrive and advance in their career, especially in science and technology. I was listening to Ben. I can attest to this. When we were students at the University of the Philippines College of Engineering, there was only one female faculty member. And I think that was intentional from the point of view of the leadership in the college. No? It was only later that more women were allowed or were invited to teach at the college. Today, I think we have a more balanced faculty workforce at our college. And in fact, we went through a succession of women deans, but that occurred on the 100th year of our college. On many occasions where women are empowered to lead and participate in emergencies, conflicts, and crises, the UN have reported that communities have experience more rapid economic recovery looking forward. Women then, if given the opportunity to participate and lead in recovery efforts and governance processes, may result in more gender-inclusive COVID recovery that is responsive to the needs of the whole community. I just came from my visits of two regions last week, the Eastern Visayas region and the Cagayan Valley region, all in a matter of 5 days. And I have seen the growing importance of the role of women. My first stop at Leyte was actually a cooperative of farmers, okay, that were already using technology, okay, in their agricultural production. And guess what? The leader, the head of this cooperative of farmers is a woman, okay. But of course, when I look at the leadership in the universities there, it was still all male. I went to Cagayan last Friday and Saturday. Well, at least I saw that out of the 4 state universities in the region, one, actually I can say 2. 2 were led by women, 2 by men. Why was I hesitant to mention 2? Because the other one is still an officer in charge, okay? Since they still have to elect a president, okay? So, but that is already a, shall we say, a significant change, you know, from the profile in the past. Anyway, in our department, I'm also proud to say that we have a balanced representation of equally competent men and women who are providing direction and leadership in our various scientific and administrative functions. Okay, take a look, for example, at our top officials at the undersecretary and assistant secretary level. Okay, there are three males. Okay, 2 undersecretaries and 1 assistant secretary, and then 4 females, 1 undersecretary and 3 assistant secretaries. Quite balanced. If you include me there, then we are at 4-4. Anyway, we would also not want to miss the brilliance that women scientists and researchers have to offer. Promote economic development and address emerging problems. I hope that engagements like this, along with many similar others, have afforded you with a better appreciation and in-depth understanding of how, by making the STEAM sector more gender inclusive, benefits that our society today and the generations ahead of us can get more. And maybe I should point out this 2022, in my, shall we say, initial meetings with new ambassadors in the Philippines, okay, I think practically all of them are women. My meeting with the ambassador of the UK, with the ambassador of Sweden, of course, with the ambassador of Austria, and then I think our incoming ambassador from the US, I think, is a woman also, and that is something that is very remarkable. At this point, allow me to thank and congratulate the Austrian Embassy in the Philippines for organizing this successful event, and congratulations also to our very able speakers and participants. Thank you for sharing your experiences and expertise. The Department of Science and Technology looks forward to more opportunities to work with all of you in areas of common interest including mainstreaming gender equality and women empowerment, especially in the STEAM sector. Thank you very much and good day to us all.
Thank you very much, Secretary de la Peña. Let us give Secretary de la Peña a virtual applause. Okay, so we are truly grateful for your presence in this afternoon's event. Truly, your vision of having a woman on board in every field of science and technology, of women stepping into the plate, of women and men providing leadership in the different offices of the Department of Science and Technology will ensure that we respond to the needs of our nation and humanity in a more responsible way. So at this point, we will now have a photo op to document this event. If you can, kindly turn on your video and give us your best smile. Ma Michelle?
Thank you, Doc Helen. So we have 5 frames. Kindly keep on smiling. Let's start with the first frame. All right, 1, 2, 3, smile. Next frame. All right, 1, 2, 3, smile. All right, third frame. Kindly open your cameras when possible. 1, 2, 3, smile.
Lenny.
Okay, fourth frame. And last. All done. Thank you, Doc Helen.
Thank you po, Ma'am Michelle. Ma'am Sher, shall we continue with the discussion?
Thank you very much po, Secretary de la Peña, for the inspirational message, sir. And we're really happy that it's really a big thing po. No? We started the series with Secretary Briones of DepEd, and now it's really a great celebration for us po, no? Having the Secretary of the Department of Science and Technology grace this closing ceremony of the Women in STEAM Careers Webinar Series. So maraming salamat po ulit, Secretary de la Peña, for generously sharing your time with us po. At this particular point, I'm going to go back to our panelists for one last question for our teachers and educators and our learners. After what you have seen as in your career, both at the start, when you were just going into your career, and now being able to have this opportunity to lead, what would you tell our learners and our teachers in the sense of earlier there was a mention about STEM and nation building, probably just final message about STEM and nation building for our learners and for our teachers. We can start with Dr. Saloma, followed by Ma'am Ben Coronel, and then lastly with Dr. Amberg. Thank you.
So I think I would like to thank the organizers for the opportunity to communicate to our audience, particularly to our teachers and students who are contemplating on careers in STEM or careers in science. I think if you have the talent and you have the determination, the ground is ripe for you to consider a career, seriously consider a career in science. The situation now in the country as well as in the world has improved so very much compared to when we were starting. And we hope that at least within the National Science Complex and in the Philippine Genome Center, for those of you who would like to pursue a career in genomics as well as in bioinformatics, that we have created a haven upon which you can do these kinds of research surrounded by very talented young researchers. So please take every opportunity you get to learn and grab every opportunity that come your way, because they will really in the future bear fruit if you are truly honest and determined and passionate about the science that you do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saloma, for those beautiful words. Now let's hear it from Ma'am Ben Coronel. Thank you.
Again, thank you to the organizers. It has really been a pleasure and an honor to be here. Now, what are the things that I would like to impart? Well, first of all, it's the best time to be at pursuing a career in or education in STEM, because there's a lot of career opportunities waiting for you. And this I can truly say from the perspective of information technology. While we're second to India in terms of ranking, in terms of competitiveness, I would think that with the help of you professors and teachers in STEM courses, you can really equip our graduates to really pursue a real career and a very good career in information technology. Right now, we have more opportunities than available resources. That is what we have right now. In fact, with the work from home, we were truly lucky, because right now we can actually tap the talent in the countryside. Whereas before you have to build facilities in the various locations in the country. Now with the work from home model, we can really reach out to the different places in the country and provide those opportunities for employment. And so now our dream of really having work for everyone, JUAN, hopefully that becomes a reality. And I really think we have that opportunity. There's no more reason to go out of the Philippines to be able to take on employment. There are opportunities here in the Philippines, and with the help of our teachers, professors, we can make it. So that's part of nation building. Let's make Philippines very competitive, and let's really retain our talented people here in the Philippines. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Beng. Now we have Dr. Amberg, please. Thank you.
I have to say I'm extremely impressed about the great opportunities that the Philippines offer to young people entering the STEM field, and especially this great opportunity of the Genomics Center. I mean, this is an excellent example for how to build a future institution of extreme value and importance. So I hope that all of the young people here, the next thing you're gonna do is look up that institution and find your summer internship, because that's what I would do right now. I don't even think that Austria has such a genomics center. So I think this is really great. It's absolutely the way to the future. I've also had the pleasure to meet a mathematician from the Philippines through a scientist Facebook group, and I was extremely blown away by her skills. So I don't know so much about mathematics, but what I could tell from her CV was that there is also impressive education here. So everybody, please make use of it and never think that you cannot do it. Always believe in yourself. I don't think there's anything that you cannot learn. And believe me, there's also things that I don't know how to do. I maybe know to whom to go, or I know how to sit down and learn. And so even like, some people might think I'm kind of accomplished, but maybe take it from me, there is always something that's fun to learn for the future. And I would also hope that we could have exchange programs between Austria and the Philippines, so that also our Austrian young people and young scientists can get to know the research community in the Philippines, because something that I find very nice or great in science is that we are kind of privileged to be welcome everywhere on the planet, because the scientific community is extremely welcoming. And that's maybe something that the whole community provides for nation building.
Thank you very much to our dear panelists. Our hearts and minds are full of the inspiration coming from you. So thank you very much, really, for this wonderful afternoon. Now I turn it over to Doc Helen Catalan for the awarding of the certificates. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Ma'am Sher. We will now award the certificates of appreciation to our panelists. This certificate of appreciation is awarded to for unselfishly sharing her valuable time, expertise, and meaningful insights as panelists during the Science Diplomacy Workshop, Women in STEAM Careers webinar series, Women in STEM Leadership, Leaders for a Post-COVID World, with the theme, Celebrating Women and Girls in Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts and Culture, and Mathematics, held via Zoom on March 28, 2022. Signed, Sherilyn C. Monterola, Director, UP NISMED, Linartes M. Beloria, National Project Coordinator, Women in STEM Workforce, Readiness and Development Program, ILO. Madeleine Mitchell-Diolanda, Press and Cultural Officer, Austrian Embassy, Manila. This certificate is awarded to Ma'am Maria Cristina G. Coronel. Same certificate is awarded to Dr. Cynthia P. Saloma. This certificate is also awarded to Dr. Nicole Amberg. Let us give our panelists a virtual applause. To the members of our panel, thank you very much for accepting our invitation to grace this event. Thank you for sharing your stories, for underscoring the importance of keeping an open mind, the importance of developing STEM skills that can be used to solve problems in work and in life struggles, to go for work-life harmony instead of a work-life balance, to be lifelong learners, to not be afraid to try new things, and when we make mistakes, develop patience and self-reflect. Say yes to opportunities, create opportunities for others, make it better for the next generation. The importance of asking questions, to stay driven, to anticipate, and be ready to respond to the challenges our nation and humanity may face. Thank you for shining a bright light on the road you've taken, to give a much-needed nudge to our women and girls as they consider embarking on a STEAM journey. Journeys that may have different starting points, but journeys that would all lead to roads that contribute to nation building. And to our audience, thank you very much for being with us this afternoon. Now, I have some good news. To receive your e-certificate of attendance, please answer the evaluation form. The link may be accessed from the chat window and the Facebook comment section. And I think the link is now in the Facebook comment section. And the link for the evaluation form will be open until 11:59 p.m. Thursday, March 31, 2022. Now, to give us the highlights of the Women in STEAM Career webinar series and to award the certificates of appreciation to our panelists and partners, let us all warmly welcome the Press and Cultural Officer of the Austrian Embassy, Manila, Miss Madeleine Mitchell-Diolanda.
Thank you very much, Doc Helen. Thank you, Doc Helen. A pleasant afternoon to our guest speakers, Dr. Cynthia Saloma, Executive Director of Philippine Genome Center, Ms. Maria Cristina Coronel, Senior Advisor and Board Member of Pointwest Technologies Corporation, and of course, Dr. Nicole Amberg, founder of STEM Fatale Initiative, and Honorable Secretary Fortunato de la Peña, the Secretary of Department of Science and Technology. Dear partners, participants, educators, and students, a pleasant afternoon. My name is Madeleine Mitchell-Diolanda, Press and Cultural Officer of the Austrian Embassy in Manila, and we have finally come to the last installation of our webinar series, which was launched on February 28, 2022, which is actually exactly a month ago, Dr. Scher, in commemoration of the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. What was initially a small idea or a small talk on points of partnership between the Austrian Embassy and the International Labour Organization, of course, Ms. Lights, Linartes, turned out to be a wonderful and, if I may say, a successful project made possible with relevant partners and stakeholders in the field of STEM. The webinar series is designed to highlight the diverse opportunities for Filipino girls and women in science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics professions, and to inspire women and girls to pursue these careers at a young age. This online event also aims to promote dialogue and exchanges to demystify STEAM and break down gender stereotypes, encourage discussions at all levels on the most common challenges and best practices, and strengthen interest in these careers in Austria and the Philippines. Access to high-tech research infrastructures is usually a fundamental prerequisite for STEM sector. So if you are scanning the globe for that perfect country to study abroad, I have just the right place for you, Austria. We wanted to reintroduce Austria, not just a beacon of tradition and music, but of course we wanted to present Austria as a leader in globalization, creativity, and innovation. Austria combines a long tradition of higher education with state-of-the-art research, and its higher education institutions have accomplished outstanding achievements on an international level and gained a high reputation. In fact, Austria has also put various measures in place to promote and increase the rate of women in science, research, technology, and engineering. Guided by this principle and as part of the embassy's commitment to promote gender equality and empowerment of women and girls in the field of STEAM, and in celebration of women and girls in science, and of course, the Philippine National Women's Month, the online launch featured welcome remarks from the Austrian ambassador Bita Rasulian, messages of support from Mr. Khalid Hassan, which is then the ad interim resident coordinator of the United Nations Philippines, Ms. Akiko Sakamoto, Senior Skills Specialist for Regional Office for Asia and Pacific of the International Labor Organization, Dr. Cheryl Monterola, Director of UP National Institute for Science and Mathematics Education Development, and a keynote message from the Department of Education Secretary, Leonor Magtolis Briones. This was followed by inspirational talks by the cool women scientists, Dr. Maria Antonia Tanshuling and Dr. Chona Camille Vinci Cruz Aveledo. On the second day, we accomplished educators then gave insights on the art of science and math teaching, best practices in science and math education panel. If you guys remember, we had Dr. Catherine Vistroyu, the program coordinator of mathematics education at Ateneo de Manila University. We also had Dr. Amelia Buwan, the Dean of College of Education, Mindanao State University, Iligan Institute of Technology. And of course, Dr. Amberg's colleague, Dr. Magdalena Steinruck, the Science and Education Outreach of ISTA, the Institute of Science and Technology, Austria. And on the third day, we were taken for a short tour in the wonderful world of science and arts, women in science, culture, and the arts, where the role of arts was highlighted in the STEM field. And I personally am amazed at how these brilliant artists emphasize that arts actually goes hand in hand with science, technology, mathematics, and engineering. And I know you guys had a lot of fun. Of course, taking and participating in that very insightful discussion. We had the Vienna-based transdisciplinary designer Alexandra Fruchdorfer, Ms. Ria Lu, the Executive Director of the Game Development Association of the Philippines, and Ms. Teresa Barroso, the sound artist, composer, and sound designer, or the curious listener. And of course, I don't think we could have ended perfectly our webinar series. Thank you so much, speakers, once again, for this meaningful and insightful discussion. These were all made possible with the support of our partners, the Department of Education, International Labor Organization, UP NISMED, the incredible team of UP NISMED, and WeTech, and of course, all of you educators and students have been with us at the very beginning. I'm sure that all of us here gained a wealth of knowledge from our brilliant speakers. The Austrian Embassy in Manila, through this project, reaffirms its commitment to gender equality in research and innovation, and will continue to create gender equal platforms and environment where all talents can thrive and better integrate the gender dimension in projects, and of course, emphasize the relevance of knowledge, technologies, and innovations produced by women and girls in STEAM to our society. It is our hope that this webinar series expand women's pathways to STEM and draw attention to the potential of women and girls in these fields. And I look forward very much to starting meaningful collaborations in joint cultural and academic projects and facilitating partnerships between Austria and the Philippines, especially in the field of education. Austria shares with the Philippines the collective responsibility to increase the number of students in STEM. We have a collective responsibility for our world and our future generations. Austria will continue to forge strong partnerships consensus for effective cooperation, and we at the Austrian Embassy in Manila join the Department of Education, the Department of Science and Technology, the International Labour Organization, UP NISMED, in development and aiming to educate, inspire, and empower the youth to break gender barriers and use science, technology, engineering, mathematics, including arts and culture, to make a difference in society. Maraming salamat. Danke schön. Mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Thank you po, Ma'am Madeleine. Well said po. What a way to end this webinar. Okay, so thank you once again for providing a platform for this conversation, for underlining the role of women as scientists, entrepreneurs, and leaders. Thank you for stressing the importance of collaboration. We look forward to future collaborations, Ma'am Madeleine. So as mentioned by Ambassador Bita Rasulian in her welcome remarks during the launching of the webinar series, Mabuhay ang mga kababaihan ng siyensya. We now conclude the Women in STEAM Careers webinar series. Thank you for taking time to attend the webinars. We would like to thank the NISMED Gender and Development Committee, the NISMED Audiovisual Group, the representatives of our partners, Ms. Madeleine Mitchell-Diolanda of the Austrian Embassy Manila, and Ms. Linartes M. Viloria of the International Labour Organization. We hope to bring you more inspiring stories from women and men in STEAM careers in the coming months. With this network that we hope will continue to grow, we will continue to have this important conversation. Till then, good afternoon to all. Stay safe and well. Let's continue to celebrate the amazing women in STEAM careers.